My childhood friend and I grew apart as we got older because we no longer had much in common or anything to talk about. I was friend-zoned after years of dropping hints. He said he didn't want to ruin our friendship. Ironically, I stopped talking to him because it hurt too much. We were so close that everyone thought we were dating, but when I asked, she laughed and said, "You're not my type," and I felt humiliated.
So tell us, what do you think about this? Have you ever been friend-zoned?
Friend-zoning is not, I would not say it's a thing. Well, and that's because scripturally you can't, find such things there. It was a term that was coined from this cosmos, from this world. However, because of the biblical understanding of what love really means, you must understand that the Bible has given us a mandate to love. And you could find this in the book of 1 John chapter 4, reading from verse 7. He says to love one another because God is love. Now look at this. If you understand the fundamental truth around what love really means, when you're in a friendship relationship, you are not in that to expect something in return. And that's because you must love from God's standard of love. God is the foundation of what love is. And one of the things you must understand about love is it's not conditional, it's unconditional. So if you were in a friendship and what you were expecting isn't what came to you, doesn't mean you were hated. It's just that your expectations were not met, and it's life.
Okay, so what would you advise, such person to do? Since like they have different expectations.
Well, in such situations like that, if you can't go on with a relationship, with a friendship basically, if you can't go on with that because of how you feel about it, I think you have to do a self-work. Just because you're not able to get what you want out of your friendship doesn't mean that friendship is not still beneficial to you. Like I said, there is a fundamental truth around love that you must understand as a person, first of all, as a person, which is that you must love from God's standard of love. And if your expectations are not met, does not spoil the friendship, because the standard of love is such that it is not conditional. My friend stayed with me all night at the hospital when I had surgery, even though they had to go to work the next morning. This is good stuff.
Yeah, so what's your most cherished memory with your friend?
One of my most cherished moments with my friends is when we fellowship. Now, when I mean fellowship, it's such that our foundation of our conversation is eternal values. The contribution that God can channel us to do in our world. Those are my most cherished moments. It's very advisable that when you have a relationship with a friend, like I said, that love is not conditional. You must be sacrificial. Now look at this. The Bible says that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son Jesus. Now if you look at this, you would see that there was no condition as to what God did for mankind. So this should also be our expressions to our friendships or to our friends. It is such that we don't have that expectation of something in return. We must be sacrificial, even though we don't get anything in return. This is God's standard of love. And if everyone can live from this paradigm and function from this truth, you'll see that you are doing yourself more good, in the sense that you are functioning from the God kind. There is a God kind of expression in mankind, and sacrificial love is the God kind. And you having to cherish your moments with your friend, your first paradigm of thinking should be sacrificial. Not doing something because you want to get something in return. That's not the God kind of love. The Bible says something. While we were yet sinners, the Bible says Christ died for the ungodly. Let me tell you something. There was nothing you did basically for Christ to die for you. The Bible says you were still in sin. You were still carrying the nature of sin in you before Christ died for you. So there was nothing that you did basically that got you in to get that. But because of the sacrificial kind of love God had for mankind, not Christians now, for mankind, he sacrificed. So sacrifice is one factor around friendship, and everyone must understand this truth. My childhood friend and I grew apart as we got older because we no longer had much in common or anything to talk about.
What do you have to say regarding this? Have you experienced such before?
Well, I believe this is common because, it's normal to outgrow friendship. Because, you see, life is in stages and in phases. So, you must also understand that the friends or the people that you knew when you were kids and you guys were close, basically, might not be the same as you grew, because values change, destiny changes. Your will, the will of God for your life can separate you from the crowd. Look at this. This is so important. Just because a person is no longer in close proximity with you as you guys used to be then, as you guys were kids, doesn't mean you guys are enemies, or doesn't mean you're enemies with that person. It just simply means that you have outgrown that level. Let me ask you a question. When you were younger, the food you were eating to grow, is it the same food you're eating right now as you're an adult? No. Why? Because you are in a level in your life where your body requires something different. And that is how it is in friendship. There are certain levels in your life where you have to require a certain different kind of association to spring you and to catapult you to your next level. This is very important. Many people might perceive this as maybe pride or arrogance, but no, it's not actually what you may think it is. It is such that you are aware, you are self-aware of your times, and you're self-aware of your seasons. You're self-aware that where you are currently is not where you used to be, and that requires a different approach to life. Requires a different kind of association to life. So outgrowing friendship is a very normal thing. It's a very normal thing. You owe no one apology for that.
Okay, interesting point of view. But then there are also friendships that, have lasted for like a lifetime, right? So, and those friendships, they've been able to build that friendship from the ground. So what do you have to say regarding that? The
same way there are friendship that doesn't last, to a lifetime, is also the same way friendship can also last to a lifetime. Like I said, it all has to do with the value system of the friendship. If your values are no longer correlating together, if where you're going is not aligning, there's no need to be in that association anymore. There's no need. Because being in that association is just going to deter you, it's just going to take you backward instead of you moving forward. So it's so important that, in your quest of having friendships or maintaining friendship, one of the things you must look out for is the fundamental core values. If those things are not met, there's no need to present yourself in it. I had this friend and I've always been there for her. I supported her in every way she needed, even letting her stay with me for months when she had nowhere else to go. But during a difficult time in my life, I took a loan from a loan app and couldn't repay it on time due to reasons beyond my control. The loan company sent messages to all my contacts, including her, even though I didn't use her as a guarantor. Instead of being there for me, she blocked me and didn't speak to me for over a year. I've seen this.
Wow.
I feel this is like a betrayal or something. right? That's how she feels.
Yeah, so yeah, she feels betrayed. She feels like her friend was not there for her when she needed her the most.
Let me say something. Let me share a story in the Bible. When Jesus was going to be betrayed. Now look at this. This would change your perspective. When Jesus was going to be betrayed, Judas was coming to him after he had made the arrangement with the officials at the time. Jesus knew he was going to be betrayed by one of his 12. The day Jesus was going to be betrayed, Judas was coming to him. While Judas was approaching him, Jesus said, "Do what you came for, friend." Jesus still recognized Judas as a friend, even though he knew what he was going to do to him. That taught me a lesson. Just because a person acted a certain way to you doesn't mean the person is an enemy. So just because someone was not there for you at a particular time where you needed the person doesn't make the person an enemy, or doesn't make the person a bad person. Like I said, the core of this is love. And you must understand that from the foundation of love, you must learn to oversee certain things, especially if that person means something to you. Look at this. Jesus still recognized Judas as a friend. He still called him friend, even though he did what he did. That being said, just because people or a particular person who you have very close relationship with at a particular time in your life was not there for you, and you don't know what exactly was going on in that person or in that other person's life, doesn't change anything. Doesn't change the person from being a good person. You must learn. Look at this. You see, when we say things like this, it is actually very important that we understand the fundamental truth about what love really is. Love is sacrificial. Love is not angry. Love is not prideful. In 1 Corinthians 13, you would see the characteristics of what love is. And if you operate from that fundamentals and from that paradigm of what 1 Corinthians defines love to be, you would see that your relationship with people is so going to be effective, and your response, your choice of response to certain actions will be different, because you are operating from a fundamental, basic biblical truth that over time it will never change.
Okay, interesting point of view. But don't you think this is like a friendship red flag? What would you advise this person to do regarding this said friend? Maybe if they come back to be friends with them again and all of that.
My red flag might not be a red flag, and that's because we might have two different value systems. So if you're saying, don't I think it's a red flag? I don't think, to me personally, I don't think that's a red flag. To someone else, it may be a red flag. And that's because our mentality and our approach to what love is different. And like I said, if everyone can imbibe the fundamentals of what love really is and understands this truth, you would see that your approach to your relationships across board will be helpful to your own self-development and also to the other person or the other factor in that context. So whether it's a red flag to me, it's not. But to you, it may be. And that's because, check why it's a red flag to you. No, check it. The reason why it might be a red flag to you could be because your love is conditional.
Okay, this is actually a very tricky conversation, right? So like if this friend like maybe reaches out to them again and tries to come close, I feel like it might be risky to let them into your space like you would normally let them into your space before, because like they just abandoned you at the points you needed them the most, right? So if the friend tries coming back into the person's space and is trying to get close to them and intimate with them, what would you advise? Because in as much as we want to love and actually portray unconditional love, it's important that we also just don't ignore certain things, right? And be careful around people who let into our spaces. So what would you advise regarding that?
The person coming back to you after a while to want to enter your space.
Yes.
Question that you should ask yourself is, what was going on in that person's life while the person was absent? No, because you see, sometimes when your approach to certain things always have a very broad perspective. Now, this will help you. A broad perspective to things will bring balance to many things. You see, because a lot of people are so myopic in their view that they don't actually see the big picture. They just see themselves. And seeing yourselves in situation just shows how myopic you are.
Wow.
And that's and that shows a self-work. There's a friend that I have who went in for surgery, and not all the friend was available for her at the time. So that broke her, because she felt like she was alone in that critical time of her life. And that's very understandable. When it was successful and she left, the hospital, she kept to herself, away from the friends for a while, and she was really feeling hurt. Only for her to find out that the friend that was not available at the time for her was struggling to trying to look after his dad who was sick. And because of that, there was a distance, there was a bridge. In a context like that, why should you be upset? I told you something initially. I said this. Your love must be beyond you. You must see beyond yourself. And that shows wisdom. Let me tell you, the death of Jesus was so painful that he said to himself, he wishes this cup could pass over him. But he saw beyond himself. He was seeing you in that context. He was seeing you in that context. And that's why he came and did what he did, regardless of the pain he had to go through, that you were oblivious of. So this should be our approach, even in our relationships with people. And this will help you maintain the relationship that will help you probably scale in your business, could be your career, it could be anything. Just because of a period of a life where a person was absent doesn't mean the person was not a good friend. However, there is a balance. There are people who must have done these things countless times in your life, and you'll know that, okay, this is a pattern. Of course, I shouldn't be telling you to cut such people off. But if it's a one-time thing and you know that this is not this person's character, for goodness sake, if you know that if it's not this person's character, you should be able, by phronesis, by the wisdom of the Spirit, you should be able to discern that if this is not this person's character, you should be able to give what I call an excuse. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you too. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Kingdom Ark TV, and we just spoke about, the friendship love, and this still remains the Ark secret. God bless you, and bye for now.